making his long-awaited debut, Glastonbury. Let's pop!
The last video covered No More Heroes, exploring how the town of Santa Destroy and its inhabitants affected Travis as a person, further developing him into a prominent assassin looking for that exit to paradise, but leaving us with a bit of an open ending, with slight intention to keep it that way. Does No More Heroes 2 live up to the first game's enthralling symbolism, deeply provoking rogue gallery, and wonderfully quirky gameplay? Let's dive into this. So much for what Sylvia said at the end of the first game.
I know. Can't wait to get the sequel,
Hey, that's not what she said. Suda51 had absolutely no intention to continue Travis's tale, but the decent sales numbers and tremendous feedback they received were able to convince him otherwise. However, it should be considered that Goichi Suda himself was a director, designer, and writer for No More Heroes 1. Sadly, for this installment, he appears to be absent from all these seats. Or was he? This may seem unclear at first, but look at how he was credited at the end of the first game. Written, directed, designed, all by him, the one and only. Take a look here in the credits of the second game. The only time his name shows up, Executive Director? I don't even know if that position is real or if they have any serious role in the game development. As far as I can tell, executive anything can mean fuck all. At least Suda had the decency to explain his role loud and clear.
For No More Heroes 2, I'm going to be credited as Executive Director. I'm just going to take care of the character script and the scenario, but the director is going to be someone else. We have actually set a director at Grasshopper, a young one.
With that said, don't believe any sites that list him as designer or even sole director because it isn't true. I'm not surprised that he made time for writing the script, considering how imperative he feels it is when it comes to most gaming experiences.
The story ends up being the design document and the framework for the entire game and its gameplay. They're really one and the same. If somebody came to me and said you had to separate those two things, I don't think I'd be able to create a game.
It's possible that he wasn't able to have a bigger hand on the project because he was too busy co-directing Fatal Frame 4 or getting ass-reamed during production of his next major title. But more on that another time. This can explain why No More Heroes 2 feels lacking in the gameplay, variety of non-essential content, symbolism, and thematic significance. Slashing up baddies is still prominent in its gameplay, but now you have the option to swap between 4 weapons at any time during your fights. But the ability to mix up high and low attacks to extend your combo like the first game don't feel as present this time around. At least not with Wii Remote settings, but since the two types of attacks are mapped to separate buttons with the Pro Controller, extending combos seems easier to pull off. It's just odd to me because I had no problem doing such in the first game. I think it helped that you were prompted of the position on the HUD. Roulette power-ups are still present to help you in a pinch, but it's not like this game's fodder is tough to deal with in the first place. Although a new mechanic would be the Ecstasy Gauge. It's a meter that fills up with every successful strike, and it works similar to roulette power-ups, but taking damage means it depletes. This encourages you to take enemies on tactfully, but sometimes it can't be helped when a bunch of these shitheads surround you or spam their guns, knocking you down constantly. Even in regards of beefing up Travis, there's barely any real options this time. In the original game, you're able to obtain upgrades that made your weapon's battery last longer, you can train to increase the length of your combos, things like that. This seems to have been replaced with the new weapons you can attain throughout the game. Your signature beam katana is back, of course, as well as the Tsubaki MK3, with a mostly reworked moveset. Along with that, you have the Peony, a huge bastard of a beam katana that's slow as hell but pretty fun to use. Among all the playstyles, this is the most unique for the series. And lastly, the Rose Nasty, wielded by Travis on the cover, and god damn, it's as mashy as the game can get. The amount of hits with these dueling deadlies is off the charts, especially when running on Ecstasy. This meant the selection of enhancements for your campaign were very slim. The gym is back, for example, but it only offers sessions to upgrade health or damage output. There's no Lavikov-esque upgrades to seek anymore, so we're already missing options completely. And abandoning the plethora of little gadgets and upgrades Naomi provided previously, now it's a mere 2 weapons for your entire campaign. Yeah, kind of awkward. Holy shit, why did they make Naomi's boobs so big this time? Why did they do that? Not that I'm complaining. Although, to credit their attempt further at variety and trying to keep the game fresh in lieu of quirky gimmicks, Henry and Shinobu certainly provide a unique experience from Travis, but they're barely utilized to begin with. Shinobu bearing 2 full stages and Henry a single boss. This is where the repetition of this title is at its most apparent, even when compared to the previous game. In No More Heroes 1, just about every single stage had a certain gimmick to change up the gameplay in order to keep it interesting. They didn't really bother to make such an attempt in No More Heroes 2 when it comes to the main stages. In fact, let's take a quick look back to the main stages of the first game. Slash up a bunch of dudes and fight the boss. Slash up a bunch of dudes, baseball minigame, slash up a bunch of dudes, baseball minigame, slash up a bunch of dudes, and fight the boss. Slash up a bunch of dudes, scurry to the electric box, slash up a bunch of dudes, and fight the boss. Make your way to the subway, slash up a bunch of dudes in a confined area, slash up a bunch of more dudes, and fight the boss. Slash up a bunch of dudes, avoid the line minefields while slashing up a bunch of more dudes, and fight the boss. Slash up a bunch of dudes and watch a cutscene. Slash up a bunch of dudes, play the space shooter minigame, and fight the boss. Slash up a bunch of dudes, get on a bus to slash up a bunch of more dudes in an extremely cramped area while navigating a completely foreign camera angle, and fight the boss venue that requires you to avoid giant laser blasts while slashing up a few more dudes. Run over a bunch of dudes with your motorcycle or end up slashing them up normally if you take enough damage, and fight the boss. Drive through the highway and forest on your motorcycle while avoiding another giant laser and some dudes, slash up some more dudes while navigating a split maze, and fight the boss. And assuming you got all the beam katanas, fight one more boss. And all of this is layered with exploring Santa Destroy for goodies, odd jobs, and quick assassin missions you must perform in order to keep your income stable, since you need to pay a fee for every stage. Definitely repetitive at times, but those little spices of variety sprinkled across the adventure help make it a more memorable and delectable campaign. Now to treat the main campaign of No More Heroes 2 exactly the same way. Fight a boss. Slash up a bunch of dudes and fight a boss. Slash up a bunch of dudes and fight a boss. Slash up a bunch of dudes and fight a boss. Fail a sneaking mission, probably, slash up a bunch of dudes, slash up a bunch of more dudes with an irrelevant timer, then fight a boss. Fight a boss, slash up a bunch of dudes, solve a room puzzle, fight a boss. Slash up a bunch of dudes, then fight a boss. Butt heads with motorcycles, then fight a boss. Fight a boss, slash up a bunch of dudes for like 10 fucking minutes, slash up even more dudes, then fight a boss. Drive down a highway with no obstacles or threats, then fight a boss. Walk down an apartment complex, slash up a bunch of dudes, then fight a boss. Slash up a bunch of dudes for like 2 weeks, then fight 3 forms of boss. Oh, and somewhere in between you take on a challenger, serves as an extra stage, in which you slash up a bunch of dudes and fight a boss. Although not likely, this mission can be completely missed. All of this could be layered between minigame side jobs, but it isn't absolutely mandatory. There's no fees for stages anymore, so the only reason to earn money is for clothes, the 2 beam katanas, and slight enhancements. You can potentially do all of these stages back to back in the most mind-numbing fashion. Traveling across the city was completely replaced with a menu that lets you choose where you want to go and instantly warp there. Looks really stylish with its transitions, but I felt something was lost in this significant change. According to the developers, the decision to remove exploring the city was mainly due to player feedback of the first game, but I don't entirely agree with this notion. Open world has been done right in genres similar to this. I've gone into detail in the previous video about how exploring Santa Destroy and its opportunities was an essential part of the experience and themes. This was just cutting down a sapling before it can become a tree. I have no doubt that open world was initially planned for this title. The end credits has you slowly driving through Santa Destroy and it looks, well, somewhat finished. Also worth considering how Suda spoke about the sequel very early into production.
We'll once again manage to do what we want to do with realizing the open world, but expect big changes for No More Heroes 2's open world.
Yeah, talk about big changes to the open world. How about no open world?
Well, the open world, fans had some complaints, so we're definitely going to improve it.
This interview was conducted about half a year before the game's launch. Really makes you think how late into the game's development this received the cut. Odd Jobs had a complete overhaul as well. What was originally supposed to be a few extra 2D minigames, the designers got overzealous about the idea and just made most of the jobs NES-esque classics. I can't deny that these retro-style games made the jobs overall more palatable for players and feel less grindy. You're not just mashing A to lug these coconuts anymore, you're pulling off some sweet jump kicking skills to catch them while avoiding bugs. So this is a different kind of quirkiness to the jobs, and it's really easy to enjoy them at a surface level. You can tell they had fun designing them. Except they kept the worst fucking job from the first game exactly the same for this title. Speaking of jobs, there's no assassin missions to earn either. I'd talk about this exclusion to be detriment to the themes discussed in the last video too, but I can't get too ahead of myself here. In these revenge missions, you have to kill everyone on sight or just a specific person. It's as simple as I'm making it out to be, and you barely earn any cash from them. So this is definitely no substitute for the assassin missions from the first title. Come on, not even wrestling moves only objectives? No actual story-related content found in these missions either, despite their context. These are the leaders of this wave of thugs trying to look as cool as the Deadly Viper Assassination Squad. They specifically are the ones that murdered Bishop. They even appear in the prequel short, and they are not utilized uniquely in any way, shape, or form. Suda even goes on the record saying if he could change anything about this game, it's this portion.
強くできればよかったなっていう、その部分ですかね。
The developers provided more attention to the soundtrack this time around. Not only did most of the bosses receive unique themes once again, but all stages have completely different tracks, rather than remixes of the main theme song. Jun Fakata would take over as main composer and sound designer. A good chunk of the soundtrack would also be attributed to guest artists, all of this being produced under Akira Yamaoka, the brilliant composer of the original Silent Hill series. Being a big fan of the original No More Heroes, he immediately accepted working for Suda the moment he left Konami, as he is now the main sound director for Grasshopper Manufacture. There is a lot to analyze when it comes to the music, surprisingly enough. They absolutely nail the feeling each part of the game is evoking when the player is immersed into this adventure full of vengeance and bloodlust with nearly every single track. And the unforgettable boss themes feel ever more fitting to the character or situation. Your first real stage gets you hyped with a recreation of the original theme song, complete with lyrics, making this sound like a celebration. It conveys that the unbelievable is happening and we're going on yet another crazy adventure with Travis, something they didn't think would ever happen. While the song is not original to No More Heroes 2, its origins being from an extra soundtrack that preceded the sequel by about 2 years, I can't deny how fitting this placement is. The overworld tune fits perfectly in this sun-bathed city on the beachside. Really wish I could, I don't know, drive my motorcycle to it. Even some of the revenge missions have incredible tunes that almost speak to you mid-fight. Sub Crazy, the track that kicked off this video for example. It starts with this build-up like something wicked and crazy is heading your way. It's here to take you on, the biggest confrontation of your life, threats in every direction. With that guitar cutting its way into the front, it's almost as if it's telling you if you persevere, you'll make it through and destroy your enemies. Oh god, listen to that. This part is like tunnel vision in audio form. You see the goal, you can't stop. No idea when this ordeal will end, but you can't stop picturing it. No brakes on this train heading to paradise. Maybe I'm being too analytical? I can't help it. These tunes just really speak to me. They put so much thought and care into this game's music. It shouldn't be surprising. Suda and his gang emphasize greatly how important their game's soundtracks are.
I want to make sure I don't give people the same impression all the time. We want to avoid, for example, having a Killer 7-like song play in the middle of No More Heroes, because that'll wind up making players remember Killer 7 instead of the game we want them to pay attention to. We don't want to repeat what we've already done in the past. Instead, we want to give something new and interesting to the players. That's something that applies for the whole design process, of course. We always want to do something fresh.
I'd gush over the music more, but the Gaming Brit has already touched on this perfectly with a video describing how well directed the soundtrack is. I highly recommend you give it a watch. Well, not right now, I'm still talking here. One thing about this game that seems to be different than the first is that it feels a little more grisly. The first game is gory as hell, but a lot of the aesthetics and even the sounds in No More Heroes 2 make it feel more dirty and grimy. Makes me think of Grindhouse films, but that might be supported by how shallow the story's presentation is compared to the first game. Before covering the general story and its boss lineup, I need to address a major elephant in the room: the gaping plot holes. Anyone that has played through both games probably already know what I'm talking about. In the original game, you took down CEOs of Pizza Butt, and the final boss of this game seeking revenge is Jasper Bat, owner of Pizza Bat. He expresses how Travis murdered his father and brothers, which is 3 Pizza Butt missions, making this an ultimate act of revenge. So there's no denying that Butt got changed to Bat. Late interviews even referred to the company still as Pizza Butt.
The city of Santa Destroy has been taken over by a huge conglomerate, Pizza Butt.
Maybe they felt the last boss would be better off sporting a bat theme? I guess they couldn't have him put on some sort of ass-related motif. In the original game, Travis finds out through Sylvia's mother that the United Assassins Association was completely fake. In this game, now it's real? Travis doesn't even question it. People theorize that the story in the previous game was reported on and inspired a real UAA to be created, but this is just fans attempting to fill in plot holes, which I really can't get behind. I guess Sylvia is a shitty mother too, since her kid is nowhere to be found. Maybe someone called Dyfus on her since she's a murderer, con artist, phone booth babe, prostitute? These are shitty plot holes, no other way to go about it. Perhaps the developers are trying to communicate with its fans that this isn't really going to be that coherent of a story. They're not taking the context seriously, so why should you? While just about all the bosses in No More Heroes 1 had symbolic relation to Travis's character developing, the same can't really be said about the supporting cast. There are still hints of symbolism floating around in the game, but there isn't enough depth to them, especially when you consider this is a Grasshopper title. This is where their drive for deep symbolism begins to deteriorate. What better way to start this dissection than with the introduction? In No More Heroes 1, you first witness this quirky exposition from Travis talking about how he's going to start this badass beam katana wielding adventure, and he's thrilled to have you along for the ride.
What do you say, bro? Join me. Let's see how far we can take this.
For No More Heroes 2, it's much more quiet and foreboding. This feels more appropriate for something like The Raid or John Wick.
Once a god-forsaken city where the bodies of angels littered the streets.
Although the narrator provides a comprehensive explanation for the change in tone.
The assassin's underworld has become a commodity, a chance for profit and entertainment for the masses. But shadows from the wilder days still linger.
This line eluded me for so long, but I think what he's stating now is how the game's many villains are portrayed this time around. Only a handful are echoes of the past, the real assassins, those shadows that still linger, while others are overly invested about their place in life, or simply the opportunity to meet Travis and to show off.
Mr. Touchdown, it's an honor to face you. Man, I love your name.
As the narrator stated, they see this as nothing more than entertainment. In lieu of conflicting or complementary ideologies to Travis, they are just figures straight out of Hollywood. This is conjecture, of course. I'm not saying this is absolutely what the developers are going for, but this is what I felt was the most interesting aspect of the game that stuck out to me. The boss tour begins with Skelter Helter, brother of the assassin Travis kills in the original game's introduction. He expresses very blatantly how much he hates Travis for taking him away.
It'll be your blood this time, when I avenge my brother! Draw!
Brother? Who?
This scenario is a complete recreation of events that started off the original adventure, but notice how much more looming and somber this is.
It's called fashionably late fuckface.
Pairing with the narration of this game, it's really letting you know this ordeal Travis will pursue might not be as vivacious in the long run. Skelter is the first callback to the previous game and how Travis has affected people around him, without even knowing who they were. This becomes an overarching theme for No More Heroes 2.
Travis, hello?
During the battle, you are introduced to these sensual but melancholic cutscenes in which someone, totally not Travis, is listening to the stories of somebody, totally not Sylvia, in this booth dubbed the Heaven Smile. During this, Sylvia mentions the blanket of snow covering the town after such a long time and how beautiful it made Santa Destroy look.
I'll never forget. That night, for the first time in 120 years, snow fell on Santa Destroy. It was a sign. Another change, both beautiful and deadly, was coming.
But she states something particular about this beauty.
But anything so pristine must be cursed.
What a coincidence that this confrontation between Skelter and Travis would be the same night that snow flurries would cover the town. It's an indication this will be the last pure fight for our modern samurai here. Travis has left the sword dormant for the past couple of years, but decided to wield his blade one more time when challenged by an unknown assassin. Travis likely thought that he would just get this quick kill done and go back to jerking off to anime, but the events about to transpire will change his life forever. Skelter would set up this elaborate revenge plan to ensure he would at least permanently wound Travis's life, taking away someone that meant a lot to him, getting that piece of vengeance post-mortem.
I said I'd avenge you killing my brother, didn't I? Well, who's been a brother to you? What? Travis. Don't think you can kill without suffering consequences.
Travis.
As the blood splatter suggests, Bishop's death is where the story truly begins. Next was Nathan Copeland. He views Travis with worshipping eyes.
Listen to me, Your Highness. These rankings mean nothing to me. Neither does my sect or the mob. My only true calling was to clash swords with you.
He even nicknames him the Crownless King, as a reference to how he reached the top of the assassin's rank and simply abandoned it.
I don't know who's talking about me, but that nickname's all right.
This might seem meaningless to the player, but the history behind it had a profound impact on some of these assassins.
He was the leader of a religious cult. Taking advantage of people's sorrows, he used his music to lure followers.
Nathan Copeland has two sides of how he represents entertainment for the masses. If one side wasn't obvious enough, a famous rapper in every essence. His large boombox and exorbitant attire screams it. Excessive amount of gold chains, basketball sneakers, and... are those sharpened grills? Like riffraff? Huh. Rumor says early on Nathan was supposed to be white, so maybe that adds to this? His music is influential to people, downright hypnotic. The public generally reveres celebrities, and rappers are this decade's most prominent example. He created a religion with many followers through the sheer magnetism of his personality, as if some sort of televangelist. Say what you want about people like Osteen and Jakes, but these people were influential due to their presentation. They were able to get millions of people to follow them. If one were to be especially cynical, they can say their followers on the scene can be compared to that of a cult. Nathan also seems to have parallels with death metal, his wardrobe and body modifications comparable to death metal's excessive piercings and tattoos. There's also some religious undertone to what he's saying. This is the first real stage and confrontation of the game, so I find it likely to be intentional.
Ultimate sacrifice is sublime.
Thy sword and thy wrath will deliver me.
You should go easy on that crazy punch.
And just like death metal, Nathan also finds greatness in dying at Travis's blade.
Extraordinary. The moment I've been waiting for. The name Holy Sword is now yours.
Deliverance!
After him is Charlie McDonald, his gigantic padded football gear and army of skimpy cheerleaders.
After this, I'm gonna touch you down.
He is professional sports events personified, one of the most universally televised and viewed programs since the birth of public television. On top of his overtly masculine build, possibly to compensate for the blatant weakness of his voice, he takes his representation to a whole new level, transforming into this hulking mecha, which Travis can coincidentally match. Much like how these events even influence the countries and states involved in them, and rabid sports fans encouraging them as if they're larger than life, this fight is literally just that. It's larger than life. Perhaps 26 times larger? And there's also the obvious ramifications of kaiju fights, something once significant to Japan's culture of entertainment. Next was the optional boss known as Kimmy Howell. She greatly respects Travis and also seemed to be deeply attracted to him.
Can I call you Travis the Great? Travis Ravenous? Cool hand teasy greasy? I'm sorry, I've always been a fan.
What? A fan? Of me?
Nothing more but a fangirl. A fangirl with intense fighting skills. Either way, this further represents how passionate people have become in admiring him, notably young people such as Kimmy. I think the fact that, narratively, the approach towards her fight is different from all the other assassins, it shows a different kind of importance to the theme of entertainment. Kimmy was once an outsider looking in when it came to these assassin fights. A regular high school girl obsessed with Travis, now willing to jump in and take him on. She represents hardcore fanatics, the people that get just a little too crazy over their favorite movie, TV show, actor, video game, whatever it may be. Anything and everything designed to entertain the masses has entire communities made up of people like Kimmy. Note her accent and high school uniform. A lot of this reminds me of how out-of-touch adults thought punk music would corrupt the youth of England, an era that Suda adores. Not sure how Travis feels about the matter, but the idea that he can inspire youth like this can be chilling for some.
Okay. So much for the dose of innocence. But you've got the bloodlust. I'm sure about that.
Yeah, I'm legit, and way tougher than I look. So, don't hold back, okay? Travis the Great.
Next assassin is Matt Helms, a ghostly child whose seething rage forms into this giant terror. If it wasn't obvious enough, this form of Matt represents the wildly popular gruesome slasher films that have been prominent the last few decades. Donning a mask to hide his true face and an oversized weapon to massacre his victims, he is also the only boss fight whose venue has destructible environment, adding to the common tropes of these movies' killers busting through walls and other such objects in order to get the upper hand on their victims.
Such a horrible past. 30 years ago, that child was abandoned, left to die in this house. As the story goes, he made a pact with the devil with his final breath. Revived through the dark arts, the child murdered his parents and now rules this forest, feeding on suffering and hate.
All assassins have fucked up somehow, or we wouldn't be in this profession.
Down to the expository dialogue that is his oh-so-sad origin, Matt perfectly represents one of the most depraved pieces of mass-market entertainment. Next is Chloe Walsh. She's part of a very niche subculture that had its time in the spotlight around the 90s and early 2000s. I lovingly name it goth shit. This kind of culture was exploited the most around this time, with vicious pieces like The Crow, Interview with a Vampire, and Queen of the Damned. There's also other works around this time to note, such as Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, Emily, and the motifs sported by certain artists like Marilyn Manson.
What was I thinking? She's definitely not a broad I'd want to hook up with.
Don't say that, handsome. Actually, you're just my type.
Thanks. But no thanks.
You'd be even more dashing if you were writhing in agony. Come closer to me.
Huh?
Show me your face twisted in pain.
My body!
With her deafening shriek, amorous personality, S&M illusion, obsession with pain and suffering, something so many goth kids pretended they endured, and outfit, she is every bit of goth culture and entertainment wrapped up in one boss. She's paired up next to Matt Helms in the boss lineup, and the overlap between horror fans and young goth culture seems to be more than a coincidence. After Chloe begins the second act of the game, and nearly all of it is dedicated to the survived fallen of the original No More Heroes. Dr. Let's Shake returns, seeking revenge on the ones who did him in last time.
All I desire is a duel with you. Desire level 100%. Revenge on primary target was previously accomplished. Behold! Saved dramatically.
So Henry makes a cameo.
He's already reached Henry, and now he wants to finish the job by killing Travis. Or encasing him as well, maybe? It can actually be argued that he is literally both Let's Shake and Dr. Shake combined through small nuances.
Devilish laughter.
Of course, destroying him leads not only to you recovering Henry, but also Shinobu's arrival. She is now dedicated to being Travis's disciple.
Did you call me master? I don't have time for apprentices. You have any idea how much pro wrestling is backlogged on my VCR?
I came to tell you I got back safely from Asia. You should be happy.
I didn't even know you left.
He doesn't seem to care about her desire to have him be her master, though.
Listen up, Shinobu. This is my war. I don't need help from anybody.
Well, the thing is, it's kinda too late for that.
Huh? What are you talking about?
I'll explain later, Master. But you should go to the bathroom first. Seriously, it's a long story.
Fine, but I'm not your goddamn master.
The two bosses Shinobu goes up against are Million Gunmen and the Destroy Men. Yeah, I'm not calling what is now two separate entities New Destroy Man. That's dumb. Million Gunmen has very little character, a man who's so exorbitantly rich he shoots money at you, although it can't be ignored that he shares many similarities with Dr. Peace from the first title. It's possible he was originally written in as Dr. Peace. His outfit and weapon of choice are staunchly similar, and both of them are ranked as number 9 in the UAA. Perhaps they thought it was too absurd to make him return along with everyone else who already is? Even if he merely shares an essence of Dr. Peace in spirit, it supports how the second act seems to prioritize old shadows with the intent to haunt Travis. Before her confrontation with the Destroyman, Shinobu visits Bishop's grave. A man comes by doing the same.
It's this Bishop's grave.
Yeah. Were you friends?
Yes, we never met in person, but we knew each other well. We exchanged many letters, even though our countries and languages were different. We truly understood each other.
Although he was only pen pals with Bishop, the two have developed a close relationship. No doubt he was affected deeply by his death.
Do you know his best friend, Travis?
Of course.
Excellent. In that case, would you please give this to him? It is from Bishop.
This?
It is a lot of things, I suppose.
But despite the implication that he may have the means to fight and possibly take revenge, possessing the Rose Nasty, he only wants to pay respects to his late friend. This could be a callback to Suda's old days of how he witnessed all different walks of life react to death of ones they cared for, since his first real job was for a funeral home. Unlike Travis and some of his adversaries, he doesn't crave vengeance or anything like that. He continues to be a humble man, wishing his friend a good, eternal rest. Shinobu confronts the Destroy Men. Defeated by Travis, he comes back as two entities.
You know, it's dangerous coming to a place like this alone. You ought to be more careful. Seriously. Terrible things can happen. I see it on the news all the time. Maybe that's why she came. It's what she wants. 2 grown men to keep her company. Horny slut.
My master's got his hands full, so I'm taking his place. Not that it matters. The result's gonna be the same. I don't have time for this.
You're taking Travis's place? Wow. I gotta say, I'm feeling pretty disrespected.
Just shut up and fight.
Oh, listen to this whore. Acting like she's some kind of femme fatale. Shut up and fight, she says. She's really pissing me off. Seriously. And she's so rude. Reminds me of my complaining customers. Now, Travis, he knew how to fight like a gentleman. Sliced me in half, sure, but he did it with grace.
A lot of people say this was a cheap rehash of Destroy Man's mysterious character in the first game, how these two are literally just Destroy Man and Destroy Man that's a pervert. I mean, I did for a while. And don't get me wrong, it still is kind of cheap, but Destroy Man really did have two sides of himself working together before. He was very kind and patient when in his mailman disguise.
Had to take care of some customers that filed complaints. My apologies.
He was trying to get the upper hand, but wouldn't let it get in the way of his politeness. It's almost as if he's doing the other side of himself a favor, but still stuck to his current persona.
I just need you to look the other way for a second.
A second?
Yes, just a split second.
All right.
Oh, damn it.
The more mannerful side of him was still present after donning the suit, almost as if he needed help to get ready. Seeing as how Travis was able to avoid his trick, he decided to go for it again with the handshake. Continuing to be a proper and patient man, he was able to lure in Travis one more time.
We're both fighters, aren't we? Not killers, at least for now. This is a sign of sportsmanship, that we respect each other before and after the fight. Good luck.
Likewise.
Destroy Spark.
One could even say this grin was the moment that other side of Destroy Man took over entirely for the sake of the fight. After all, at this point he was completely cynical, obnoxious, and aggressive.
This is great. Is this guy an idiot or what? Is this a joke? You fell for the oldest trick in the book. Oh man, you are something. Oh, this is the best. Man, you really cracked me up. I think this laughter's gonna kill me. Destroy Cow! Destroy Beam!
This man had two separate sides of his personality sharing the same body. Now they are able to coexist through the miracle of cybernetic enhancements. Unfortunately, this new aspect of Destroy Man's double life isn't given much time to develop and mainly consists of callbacks.
We're gonna kill you twice over!
Hell, I spent more time analyzing him in the first game again than I did for his return, but I suppose I wouldn't have reached this conclusion if it weren't for his depiction in No More Heroes 2. It just felt underutilized for this game, and we're left with probably the most frustrating fight due to its design and multi-level venue. From Dr. Let's Shake to the Destroy Men, this was mostly a revisit of opponents from the original game. Their concentrated appearances seem to be intentional. It's possible they are an homage to an old theme in storytelling Suda used to focus on known as Kill the Past, which relates to the necessity for the story's protagonists to destroy the echoes of a time they once dwelled in, old relics that burden them from growing and moving on. With the help of Shinobu, Travis would destroy these vestiges of the past, but what about her? She is most definitely part of his past and was amongst the ranks of Travis's other foes.
I can kill more fighters for you, whatever my master wants. Master.
Oh.
Looks like he's not really feeling it.
I can't. I feel like that pervy teacher in a porn.
With this rejection, Shinobu takes her leave. The last glance she shares with him completely lacks emotion. No sadness, no anger, she feels nothing. She is completely done trying for Travis, realizing there's nothing here for her. And this glance marks as the last time they'll see each other. I mean, she'll probably come back in another game eventually, but you know. Back to Travis, he drives to his next opponent. Ryuji is an interesting character, a possible callback to Travis's old ways, looking like a modern samurai himself. Or just a Bosuzoku. It's also worth noting his weapon of choice seems eerily similar to what Darkstar wielded. There appears to be symbolism in this fight relating to mythology. No more appropriate place to have this fight than the midway point of the entire campaign, or, well, it's sorta close. In Eastern mythos, it is common to see tigers battling dragons, and here is the very fight in a modern depiction. Travis didn't need to share words with Ryuji. He sees the symbolic vehicle and knows what he must do. The two beasts are quite opposite of each other, yin and yang, the ground and the sky. In a way, these two are finding ultimate balance in the heat of their battle, but knowing one will eventually overcome the other. This could be why Travis initially chose to spare him after winning the fight, out of great respect. Which Sylvia disrupts, of course.
Stop! Stop!
Why? You beat him. He had nothing left.
I know that. but he was a true warrior, and you gunned him down like a thug.
This is not some pee-wee karate tournament, Travis. You do not say bows and go home. You are an assassin.
Transitioning over to Henry, still in deep slumber, we get a glimpse of that horrid dream he was having. Henry wakes up to this repugnant creature. Is it already obvious what she represents? All that cutesy anime trash that Travis obsesses over. While there are communities in the West that go nuts for this crap, it's a complete phenomenon over in Japan. The brief nod to Charlie's mecha fight in the TV can potentially confirm this is what they were going for. Ugh. Were they going for an inflation fetish too? Oh, now I'm definitely overthinking things. Then again, the next scene is literally Travis beating off to his,
Moe. Oh, chill out.
What the bloody hell?
About time you woke up.
Yeah. Are you the one who rescued me?
I had a fight to win. You were just collateral damage.
Henry takes his leave and, well, it doesn't look like Travis quite killed his past just yet.
You and I still have a score to box off, but that's another subject entirely. So don't get yourself killed till we have a chance to finish our fight.
Margaret Moonlight is up next. Continuing this trail of Japanese-driven mass media, she's an example of their pop idols in every essence, from her fashionable hair, heavy makeup, Lolita outfit, and song. The most pop-inspired tune of all boss themes and the only villain track to have distinguishable lyrics. Pop idols, like cutesy anime, are a much more prominent part of Eastern culture. They are absolutely cherished in their society. Everyone knows them and their music. Perhaps this is why she asked Travis this question.
You know this song?
Nope.
Here we are at the home stretch. Rank number 3 is Captain Vladimir.
Mayday, mayday, mayday! Spaceship Volk to Mother. Do you copy? Please respond. Spaceship Volk to Mother. Looks like I've been followed by an American?
This lost elder sporting an old cosmonaut suit in a mess of tangled wires and devices who tries to take you down with a satellite that shoots a huge laser blast. Bit of a deja vu, huh? They're both ranked 3rd. Besides that, Captain Vladimir may represent old sci-fi feature films about a man lost in space. An art and mass media that used to be much more prominent, full of people that cared for it, now almost completely abandoned.
Spaceship Volk to Mother. Do you copy? Please respond.
Up next is Rank 2, Alice Twilight. The sun is setting, a sign that we're nearly at the end of Travis's path. Alice represents the conscience of assassins affected by him. She practically begs to him for closure. She wants to know how on earth he found a way out.
I've seen a lot in my journey up the ranks. An endless cycle of violence, now broadcast as a spectator sport. Why, Travis? Why do so many assassins join if we are all going to end up killing each other in the end?
Does it really matter why?
To me, it does. It matters more than anything. We've all become trapped, don't you see? Addicted to the violence, to a life in the shadows. Once we join the ranks, we can never get out.
His big secret was as simple as can be.
Don't be stupid. If you get tired of the battles, just fucking quit.
But that's why we all want to fight you, to learn your secret. Don't you get it?
Get what?
You are the crownless king, the one who got out. You reached the top, then walked away.
Well, I'm back now, aren't I?
It appears as though she's made her decisions. She's in too deep. This is emphasized by the burning photos, which we can't even fucking see without data mining. She was once a family woman, but it seems that was a lifetime ago and has since lost herself in a seemingly endless cycle of killing. Before the fight, she gives us one last thing to reflect on.
With you it is different. You are the no more hero. Show me your passion. Release me from this cycle. Free us all in a crimson sea.
This line signifies that Travis is the only one who is able to stop. Unlike all these heroes in the games, Travis decided to completely reject that title, something nobody else thought was possible. He managed to escape the life of a killer, realizing it would destroy him from within, much like what it did to Alice and many of the other assassins.
Travis, you are incredible. Everything I hoped for.
Tell me your name.
Promise me you won't forget. There once was an assassin named Alice.
Notice she says assassin, not person, not woman. This further cements how far her character has gone. She has nothing human left inside of her.
Sylvia!
You are now officially ranked second.
See that? Now that was a battle. Look at this blood. We humans are alive, even if we are assassins.
Seeing Travis reacting so emotionally to Alice's death and his confrontation with Sylvia relates to how much he has changed over these events. This shows how much Travis has grown as a person. He also expresses his resentment towards Sylvia and how she uses him as a tool like everyone else.
This is Alice's blood. I bet you've already forgotten she existed. Same way you would have forgotten me. And that's why I'm tearing down the UAA!
He starts to hate her because of how much she embodies the UAA. But it's possible that boiling hatred might be fueled by a passion he has for her.
So you do hate me?
I'm crazy about you.
What do you mean?
Fuck if I know.
The encounter with Alice and its aftermath would have been breathtaking and a perfect way to wrap up this tale. You know, until they ruin it with one of the worst villains ever made immediately after.
Travis! Took you long enough! Thought the suspense was gonna kill me. How will he make his entrance? Is he emo or grunge? What's his fighting style? How's his broke-ass face gonna look when he dies?
So much hostility!
Why? Why'd you kill him?
Ironic question coming from an assassin.
Jasper Bat Jr. seems to bring something full circle, however. No More Heroes 2 starts with Travis fighting a man seeking revenge for the death of his family, and he's ending this tale fighting someone with the same motive. This implies that revenge is a never-ending cycle and can be perpetuated by occurrences that seem insignificant to you. It's a matter of perspective. Travis thought they were just faceless goons, but to Jasper, they were his family, and the events would cause horrible consequences.
It's called poetic justice.
Go to hell. Don't ever compare Bishop with your shithead family.
So naive, Travis.
More significantly, Jasper Bat Jr. is the ultimate representation of mass entertainment. Does he look like the CEO of a highly successful food chain? No, he looks like their goddamn mascot. A quintessential to selling some of the most fruitful franchises. I bet you could think of a few mascots you'd like to deck in the face. Jasper is no different. The brightly colored motif, cartoonish face, ear-grinding voice. I mean, why else hire Yuri Lowenthal unless you want your character to sound like an annoying prick?
Did you honestly think you could take so many lives and never suffer retribution?
And let's not forget his superhero form. He looks like he's ready to fight crime and sell cereal. Lastly, his final form symbolism is as colossal as his appearance. Going full mascot, he becomes what only the most significant and adored mascots ever be. A goddamn Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade balloon.
Come on, Prez. Unleash your hate, your anger, everything. I'll take it all and fucking kill you with it!
Some people might find it unorthodox how I analyze these bosses. Would Suda and his team really have taken so much from different facets of entertainment? A common comparison when it comes to Suda's work is Quentin Tarantino. In an interview, he had this to say about it.
For No More Heroes 1 and 2, I wanted to include a lot of elements from cinema. I guess that's where the Tarantino comparison comes from, because he does the same thing.
Cinema is an art form, but it's indisputable how it became an imperative form of entertainment over the past few decades, and it's no secret that Suda takes much inspiration from such, and he took this game as an opportunity to express his love for all different kinds of pop culture out there. Why else do so many of these assassins feel otherworldly, as if they belong in different games? This could reflect on how the story itself was written. Rather than a quirky tale rooted with symbolism or philosophy, it was rooted with heavy emotions and clear motives. This game feels more based on characterizations in cinema rather than its themes.
Have you never even seen a kung fu movie, spy flick, or western? Shakespeare, for God's sake!
If you wanted revenge, you should have come for me!
And it works well. There's particular scenes that really hit me hard the first time I watched them.
It's over, Captain.
This is Earth?
Yeah. Welcome home.
So, I'm finally back. After all this time. Fresh oxygen. Blue sky. Beautiful as I remember.
Glory to the Soviet Union. Just leave him alone. Let him rest in peace.
We must dispose of the remains. It's policy.
Screw your policy. He's back with the Earth after who knows how long. You're not gonna suck him up with your damn vacuum.
Maybe I get emotionally invested in these characters too easily, I don't know. But these are the aspects that help me condone the lack of depth in its symbolism. You know, Travis's wardrobe is starting to get a little stale. I think he really needs to do some shopping at Sukuban NYC. Their clothing line has some head-turning styles like the beautiful Utsukushi and badass Les Jeunes Sauvages. Man, I hope I said those names right. Check out their website on the link below. Despite the big changes in No More Heroes 2 and shifted focus on its story, I think it still bears the three main themes: individualism, society, and death. We still see individualism in watching Travis grow into this infectious hero for the town of Santa Destroy. This direction created something many fans of the original game would inherently rebel against. Players of the original No More Heroes loved Travis because of how unconventional he was. This is exactly how Suda designed his character.
I wanted a hero unlike anything seen before. Someone who's more like you and me, someone who sees the world more casually. I wanted to make a hero that could really be an extension of ourselves. Travis isn't the best hero you could think of, but the thing about him is that he thinks he's the best hero in the world.
Essentially, Travis did become that hero he thought he was. And that might be the case because the world, or should I say writer, let him. Unlike the first game, the people he interacts with really don't hold him back at all. And this is unfortunately made for a somewhat weaker portrayal of individualism. While this is a complete departure from what we became accustomed to, destined to upset many returning players who wanted to see more of the silly, dim-witted, but high-achieving Travis Touchdown we grew to love in the original game, I can understand why the creators took the liberties that they did. They couldn't beat the rhythm of the first game again. There's no way it could be about Travis unknowingly stepping into this assassin gig again, not realizing what he's getting himself into again, and portray his struggle with the town and its inhabitants influencing his way of life again. For this to be a formidable sequel, No More Heroes 2 had to bring the story and themes in a different direction, but in all fairness, we still get to see him fall flat on his face here and there.
I want players to feel the way that Travis feels and lives as they play through his battles. Travis is the kind of person who is an unlikely hero and doesn't want to be the center of attention, but after being offered a big stage, he grows up slowly and becomes a real hero at the end. I want players to feel that anyone could be a hero through Travis.
This game isn't about some weird perverted shithead trying to become more than he presumably is again. This is about a weird perverted shithead who has become more than what we presumed he can be. Travis has become...
the No More Hero.
Yeah, that. Of course, not everyone is there to inflate his ego.
I do not have time to waste on 25th ranked scrubs like you.
Take a hit, you impotent dipshit!
I like her better when she's horny.
Much like some of the remnant psyches in Killer 7 and how they disrespected the main characters from time to time, some folks of this game don't care about Travis or how great he's perceived to be. The first game was about the town, its inhabitants, and how their environment formed him as a person. Now we see the aftermath of Travis's actions and how he, as a sole individual, was able to influence the society of psychopaths and killers. We also saw a noticeable change in the way society is portrayed. The creators wanted to show what becomes of the town after Travis makes a name for himself, They wanted to show what this place is like when it has a hero. The UAA, seemingly handled by Sylvia, is ran inside K Entertainment, presumably still named such since this is the same building. Instead of being an underground tournament run by a con, these fights are now broadcast for mass appeal, integrating into Santa Destroy's corruption more than ever before. Money was so unimportant, you didn't even earn bonuses through assassin kills. This and the abandoned assassin missions might be their way to convey that the concept of Travis having to put his nose to the grindstone to make something out of himself isn't beneficial to explore yet again. That part of his story has already been told. Instead of Travis's trek and boss lineup being a representation of how this world of assassins is affecting him as a person, they flip the concept. We see how Travis's actions have changed those people and built a whole new league. It's almost as if he became an icon of revolution for Santa Destroy, a new era led by an unaware shepherd. Our last theme is death. It was what Skelter fought for, Nathan worshipped, Matt spawned from, Destroyman overcame, Alice tried to figure out, and Jasper wanted more than anything else in the world. The mysterious cycle of death that was perpetuating for all these people, including Travis himself. Many believe that their death would lead them to paradise, but it's possible that Travis didn't need that to find his.
Sylvia, now that's paradise.
No More Heroes 2 is still a somewhat memorable experience, but I feel as though it lost a lot of the charm and appeal from the first game's world. On top of that, the hack and slash gameplay feels a bit clunkier and significantly more repetitive. The developer stacked onto this problem by making some of these stages an absolute chore with its waves upon waves of enemies. This doesn't make the game harder, only more tedious. I will give credit that the boss fights themselves bear more variety. No More Heroes 1's bosses were generally people at an average size, and most strategy was as little as fighting back when they finish attacking, and mind their invincibility frames, which are abundant. Some certainly had their unique gimmicks, but I think 2 added much more variety in design and the bosses themselves, and didn't really need invincibility frames in order to provide a challenge. And one can't forget the fights that feel completely unique to the rest of the game. Regarding the story, I understand a lot of people did not enjoy its narrative as much as the first game. While I can concur to some extent that the characters are not nearly as endearing or memorable, this was most likely Suda's intent to take Travis, considering he didn't think a sequel to this game would exist in the first place. So, back to the original question. Does No More Heroes 2 live up to the first game's enthralling symbolism, deeply provoking rogue gallery, and wonderfully quirky gameplay? In just about all regards, no. But let's be honest, can anything? No More Heroes was clearly born from a very personal level of Suda's mind and history. With that said, Travis's story in the first game was meant to feel a bit open-ended, since it's not like Suda's own life is nearly over now. Never mind back in 2007. So when it came to creating a sequel to what he likely perceived to be an abandoned story, I think he felt a bit cornered in how he should write it. While I'm sure people typically blame the supposed absence of Suda for what Travis became, considering the story does feel somewhat like it was written by fans a little too obsessed with him, it was still his responsibility as the writer, which I'm sure is something he wanted. And I think people are being too harsh saying this portrayal of a more grown Travis is some sort of self-parody that makes him unrecognizable. I would agree this is a bit of a departure of the established character, but I'm sure most people that are avid fans of certain video games or cartoons can think of much more severe examples in which a character they once found endearing or enjoyable morphed into an unrecognizable atrocity. And be honest, is Travis in No More Heroes 2 really as bad as these? The game certainly has its highlights, such as a masterful soundtrack, higher weapon variety, and retro minigames, but the experience is brought down by its incessant need to oversimplify so many features from the exploration of the world to its core gameplay. Regardless, they spun an interesting tale. I appreciate the evolution of Travis's character and how he inadvertently affected society around him with his previous actions. The music also goes a very long way when it comes to enjoying the mob slaying. It feels more conclusive than the previous game. It's undeniable how misled this title feels, but there's something satisfying about our No More hero possibly finding that exit to paradise he was looking for this whole time.
Santa Destroy needs us.
Travis, my No More hero.
While this game very much felt like the end of Travis's journey, it looks like we'll see him wield his trusty beam katana at least one more time in the near future. I've already given my thoughts on Travis Strikes Again, but you can expect a quick review of the game around its launch and a full analysis afterward. Coming up will be the lowest point of Suda's career with a very downtrodden project his company had to take on. Think Shadows of the Damned was just a fun, gun-toting, demon-hunting adventure that Suda wanted to make from the start? You don't know the half of it. But you will next time. Thanks for watching. Big shout out to Sukaban NYC for sponsoring this video. I wouldn't even be recommending their cool clothing brand if I didn't think they were awesome. And shout out to Chaseface for providing his velvety voice for the video. One last thing, I started a Patreon page recently. I love making videos and always do my best to make time creating more content, but a lot of aspects of my life are starting to change, and it's no secret how YouTube ad revenue is. Getting support from people that appreciate my work will help me keep going and making more content you all enjoy, as well as upgrading my current equipment. So, maybe consider becoming a Patreon. You'll get some nice little perks such as being able to influence what I work on next, transcripts, and very early previews to upcoming videos.